It was 6 o'clock. And it depends when you're watching this. For me, this was 6 o'clock yesterday. Imagine the scene, 6 in the morning, and I'm still in my Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore pajamas. I'm clutching my first cup of tea in the morning, about to spread my Paddington Bear marmalade onto a fresh round of toast, and all of a sudden, I hear a ping from Discord. Hello, I think, which is odd because at 6 o'clock in the morning, I can usually only think in words of one syllable. But even my sleep-addled brain knew that I didn't normally get pings from Discord at 6 in the morning. I'm on a lot of American Discords where they talk overnight and I just have to catch up the following day. This, however, was a ping from AYN, and the news was not good. The Rampocalypse has made a significant dent in the tech world over the last few months. Valve have put back the release of their hardware, which has left many people steaming. Retroid have dropped the 12GB model of the RP6, which is never a good thing to do with a console with an all-glass front. Magic X are holding up the release of the 2 Dream lineup until RAM prices fall, proving that even the small companies can't conjure their way out of this. Even Ambernic have had to halve the amount of RAM in units like the 34XXSP just so it can hold its price. Now it seems that it's AYN's turn to adjust pricing and specs on the Thor. And that's going to be a major blow to some people who've been saving up, because this has been one of the most popular devices that I've talked about on this whole channel. I mean, the internet has just exploded talking about this thing. This is what people have wanted in a clamshell forever. Ancient Mesopotamian stone tablets have been found, stacked one on top of the other with a hinge. The top tablet for work, the bottom one to play Super Gilgamesh 3. And even now, 4,000 years later, somebody in Reddit is complaining that their tablet hasn't arrived yet. Or it's got a crack in it. But hurtling back to 2026, to me, on Friday morning, in my pajamas, staring disbelievingly at a screen, not because I can't believe the information, but because I can't remember my password, we find the reason for this ding was the announcement that AYN have changed the specs and the pricing on the Thor, all because of the staggering price of RAM and storage. Something has shifted in the marketplace. We knew that it was going to happen, but here it is in all of its stark reality. If you're thinking about buying a Thor and you haven't pulled the trigger yet, then there's going to be some serious questions you'll need to ask yourself. Is this new pricing defensible? What does the UFS change mean, if anything? Which model is the right one for you to buy now? And the big one, do you buy it now, or do you wait and see if things slow down a bit, if the price comes down a bit? So join me with a 2-day-old cup of tea and some slightly soggy toast and marmalade, and let's find out. Usually, if a company were to raise its prices and lower its offering, people would take to the streets and chant very derogatory things about the CEO. The fact that this isn't happening at the moment is a reflection of the sad inevitability that I think we've all come to just accept with the increased pricing of RAM and storage. Nobody is going to be immune. There might be companies who are making some much smaller devices who have excess stock of lower quality RAM or chips or NAND who might ride out this wave. But even that's not likely now that people have had their expectations set with units like the Mangmi Air X or Pocket Air Mini. This is called price anchoring, and it's what people expect to acquire at a certain price point. And it's what we're going to have to adjust as these prices increases. And you know what? It's going to be more painful than stepping on Lego whilst holding a full mug of tea. But to really understand this in terms of the Thor, we have to understand what's being done. So at the moment, the Lite, the Base, and the Pro haven't changed in price. They're still $249, $319, and $399 respectively. But what has happened is that any unit that used to have UFS 4.0 storage has now been changed to UFS 3.1 storage. A lot of people have latched onto this and have said that it's a lot worse, but we'll come to that in a little bit because it's worth unpacking that properly. The big changes here are on the Max model, which has got a price bump of $549, adding $100 onto the price of the 1TB model. And then they brought out a new model, which is still a Max with 16 gig of RAM, but only 512 gig of storage, and that sits at $469. So price-wise, whilst there has been one major bump in the road, the rest of the street isn't full of potholes. We do have to address the question of UFS, Universal Flash Storage. It's not the memory of that time that you walked into the bathroom and caught your aunt in the shower. It's basically super fast storage, at least much faster than the SD cards that you might otherwise use for games. We're moving now from 4.0 to 3.1, and yes, 3.1 is a lower number than 4.0. It's a downgrade because that's how numbers work. Now on paper, UFS 4.0 is roughly twice as fast as 3.1, but crucially only at peak sequential speeds. It's about 46% more power efficient. And all of that sounds catastrophic until you remember that those are theoretical maximums that basically don't exist in the real world. They're tested under the same sort of laboratory settings that tell you that your car can do 60 miles to the gallon, when in reality it can do about 12. There's a well-documented comparison between two near-identical phones, one using UFS 3.1, one using 4.0. And when asked to copy an 11GB file, the 4.0 phone finished only 7 seconds faster. For random reads and writes, which is what actually matters when you're using the device in a real-world setting, the gap is statistically invisible. Chrono Trigger is still going to chrono. It will load and save at the same speeds. Melon DS is still going to be Melon DS, and whatever you're running through Game Hub is going to crash at exactly the same time on both systems. In daily use, you're really not going to notice this, and if you're playing anything through an SD card anyway, then it's a complete non-issue. I know people are going to argue about this for the next 6 to 8 months, but whilst they're arguing about it, people who buy these units with the lower spec storage are just going to be playing games and having fun. And of course, the practical upshot of all of that means that if you want anything other than the Max unit, you're going to be paying roughly the same price for roughly the same sort of performance at a time when the overall price of the unit could actually have just skyrocketed. The biggest jump, of course, is the Max model. And in my previous video, I started to say to people, buy the Max model because the cost of buying a 1TB SD card on top is negated if you have all that extra storage internally. But is that still the case? Let's say you wanted to get a 512 gig SD card. Well, use A2 models because that's going to be the best if you want to use it for PC gaming. And most A2 models that you'll find on the market will be perfectly acceptable. Taking a look at the cheapest, we've got an Amazon Basics model for $90. Depending on the day of the week and the current position of Uranus. So the total price of a Pro model plus a 512 gig card is going to be $489. The Thor Max with 512 gig of storage is going to be $469. Now, that might sound like a bit of a saving. But with the original proposition, you were increasing your storage space by 744 gigabytes. Here, you're only increasing it by 256 gigabytes. The Max 512 gig model is a significant upgrade, but it's not as compelling as it was just a few days ago. The 1TB card, if you sacrifice some extra virgin olive oil to the great god Cthulhu, yeah, look, it's basically the same joke as earlier, but I keep saying prices have gone up. Anyway, a 1TB card is going to set you back about $165. That's that Amazon Basics one again. And the total price of $564 for the Pro plus a 1TB card. But if you get the Max with 1TB of storage, you're going to pay $549. So what we can see by this is that, yes, the price has gone up, but it's pretty much gone up in line with the price increases that we were seeing in SD cards as well. And because it's only the Max model that's gone up, the pricing of units that are Pro or Base or Lite are still comparable to the amount that you might spend on, say, a second-hand 3DS XL. But those numbers don't really give you the full picture if you're deciding what to buy. Up until yesterday, if somebody had asked me which Thor to get, I would have said get the Max model without hesitation. It's not because of the RAM. I mean, the RAM's useful if you want to play PC games, But at the time, the price of storage via SD card had shot up completely, and the price of storage using a higher spec machine hadn't. Well, that's changed now. Now, before I say this, none of these prices are actually bad for the unit that you're going to get. And if you've already decided to go with a Max, then you should probably just go with the Max. But if you're unsure, I suggest taking a look at the Pro model and the separate SD card. This is good for a few reasons. Firstly, you're not overpaying for RAM that you won't use. Any form of emulation up to PC, 12 gig is going to be more than enough. And if you're going to hit a processor ceiling before you actually hit a memory ceiling. PC games is a little bit different, but you can play them via the SD card, and it's actually pretty good. And it is supported out of the box now by Game Native. And look, this is a little bit of exclusive, but I'm actually working on a video where I play some PC games on the Thor Pro. And they're games that I've not really seen mentioned a lot. They're ones that I enjoy playing. And I run them exclusively on an SD card. And let me tell you, it's not a bad experience at all. Even for some games that I didn't think would run on the Thor in the first place, I'm running them, and I'm running them on that SD card. Now, if you want to heavily get into PC gaming, then I would recommend still going with the Max, because suddenly you'll encounter games that need at least 16 gigabytes of memory to run, and you have to remember that on the Thor, that means that you're splitting memory between the Android overhead of around 4 gig, the game itself, and the VRAM you need. But if PC gaming isn't for you, or you only want to dabble with lighter titles, then actually you don't really need anything more than the Pro. At least not unless the prices change again. And even with all of these price changes and things, I actually think that the Thor is still worth it. I think that's because of my own experience with AYN as a company. I bought the Portal Max back in February 2025. It was a UK purchase, which meant that at the final bill I had after delivery and 20% VAT and paying the full price, so I didn't get any discounted prices, adding on the couple of accessories that everybody insisted that I should get that I have never ever used. That price was north of £600, which is about $800. And I know what everybody's going to say. Why didn't you just get a Steam Deck? And of course, I could have done. I did end up, paying Steam Deck money. And when I first started to look at the Odin 2 Portal, it wasn't Steam Deck money that I was looking at. And it's only because of those final parts of the bill that I pushed the price beyond that threshold. But the key point here is that even though really I paid over the odds for a unit at that time, it was worth it. It brought me many, many hours of happy gameplay. It's still something that I reach for on and off, and I do feel that I've got my money's worth from that unit. So if you're looking at this and you know that you're going to use it and game with it and enjoy it and love it like your firstborn child, then I'd still say go for it. Grab a Thor, because my experience with it has been absolutely phenomenal. And I'm sure yours will be as well. The only real question is whether or not you're going to buy it now or if you're going to wait to see if the prices drop. The honest answer? Waiting is rational in roughly the same way that standing under a tree in a thunderstorm is dry. There is a case for waiting. OpenAI started pulling back in March. They've cancelled their expansion plans. They've closed Sora. They're reining in costs. They alone had ring-fenced 40% of the global memory supply, which means that if you go into a room and you forget where you went in there, that's Sam Altman's fault. Now, that memory is just floating around on the market. Some people think that it means that it's going to be eaten up by other AI companies, and in some respects, it might do. But even if no AI company buys it, that memory has been off the market for a little while, and it'll still take time for companies to buy it, to start manufacturing customer-based products, and for those products to actually hit the market. We're probably not going to see price drops straight away, but they might drop a little bit quicker than the 2 to 3 years that economists were predicting just before Christmas. So there are two possible futures here. There's one where you buy the Thor today, where it arrives in 2 months, because yes, it is taking that long for them to manufacture these things. But you start gaming on it, you play it, you treat it like a small child. And you treat anything that you feel is an extra expense and an extra spend on this thing as a sunk cost just to get your unit as quickly as possible. The other is that you say that you don't need the console. Maybe you don't want to get a Thor until this time next year, maybe even the year after. You're going to hold off until the price is right for you. Now, you may be waiting a very long time, I don't know, but then that gamble could pay off, and you may find that in a couple of months that you can put your order in and get it for the price that you wanted. If I was on the market right now, I wouldn't actually hang around. I'd get it now. Buying it now is a known outcome. You put your money in and the Thor will come out. You get what you want and you get it in a relatively timely manner, although that waiting period is painful. You know, I made a video when the Thor first came out, and the first part of it was all about the wait. A few people actually commented on that video and complained that I talked about the wait, only for somebody to make a comment on a video the other day apologizing for that complaint because they have suddenly realized what a pain it is. So that's where I've landed. If you want the Thor, buy the Thor. Don't wait for it on the assumption that prices will drop, because even now they might not. And the Thor is still a brilliant device, whatever happens. If you don't want the Thor, don't buy the Thor. Sorry, I feel like I may have wasted 20 minutes of your life. But I would love to know what you think in the comments below. Are you going to buy one now, or are you going to hold out? Which model are you going to go for now that the price has moved? And if you've already bought a Thor, if you're a Thor owner, how smug do you feel right now on a scale of 1 to 10? But I'm going to leave this video there because my tea has gone cold and the toast has set into the sort of material that they used to make nuclear bunkers out of. If you haven't done so already, please do leave a like and subscribe. And if you'd really like to support this channel, then there is a Patreon link in the description below. But that's it for this video. Can't speak, obviously, it's the lack of toast. That's it for this video. It only leaves it for me for bloody hell. It's the lack of toast again. That's too much marmalade, perhaps. I don't know. But thank you ever so much for watching. And until next time, happy gaming.